Good morning, everybody. It's a beautiful day. Welcome to the Fasce, your weekly podcast of everything football. We got fantasy, we got predictions, we got bets, we got all the news. You name it, it's all here. Every single Thursday, 8 a.m. every week, we're going to be on the YouTube, and I'm joined here today by the Fasce brothers. And also, let's hear from a special guest today, a cousin Fasce. Nick, say hi to everyone. We brought in a guest this week, and just give a quick hi, and we'll get right into it.
Hello, everybody.
Okay, that's good.
Let's go.
That is very quick. I mean, you listen to instructions there to a T. But yeah, I wanted.
He's like Mr. Neighbor, Mr. Bean. Just why? Hello.
Hello. Yeah.
Like normal.
We're bringing in Nick this week to kind of speak about. We just went to the Steelers-Cowboys game Sunday night. The rain delay. If anyone was up watching it till 1:30 in the morning, we were there till 1:30 in the morning. But yeah, we were in the stadium watching that game, so we wanted to bring him in and give a look in the game, and he'll be joining us for the podcast today. But that's what I wanted to start the talk with is. The energy versus what me and Nick experienced in the stadium versus what you guys were. Because I don't know about you, but when I saw that last fourth down, last play of the game touchdown throw, it was electric for me. What do you guys think? What'd you think of that?
For
game?
me, yeah, I watched most of it, and I gotta say, I honestly want to put most of the games on mute because of the broadcasters, and most of the time they just irritate me. There's a lot of things that they say where I'm just like, why would you say that? Why are you getting paid to say that? But I will say, pre-game in the delay, there were some people out there in the stands that were still screaming and cheering and having a great time in the rain while everybody else was inside the stadium. That was pretty cool to see. Obviously, the energy was probably much different at the stadium. But I will say, watching the game, it didn't seem loud. I feel like that game was kind of, I'm sure it was electric, but obviously you guys will tell us. It didn't seem like there were many things to happen in the game that made people, jump and scream, like playoff type atmosphere. So that's just what I witnessed until I inevitably fell asleep because I'm old.
Yeah, I want to share my story, so we'll kind of go back and forth. TV, me, Caleb, and we'll end it off with Nick so he can get his rebuttal here because I'm sure he'll have a lot to say after what I have to say. But this is what I have to say about like being in the stadium. It's, oh mama, I'm in fear for my life from the Lord of the dude. Yeah. So I didn't know what was going on when I went into the game. And they kept telling me, like, Renegade, you're gonna wait for. I stayed away from any videos and watching stadium so I can experience it for the first time while I was there. And it probably came at the worst possible time for me, being a Cowboys fan. And I would remember just hearing that turn on, watching the big giant scoreboard screen with their videos and graphics, and the song flipped on, and I was literally looking all around the stadium. Everyone's like standing up, whipping their towels into my eyeballs, and I'm like, oh my god, we're gonna lose this game. But
during that, I almost blacked out.
Yeah, he was screaming. He was screaming next to me. That was crazy. That was a crazy moment. But yeah, the other crazy moment too. The biggest recap for me is like, aside from all that, the home energy and Pittsburgh Steelers coming down to the last 20 seconds of the game. Dak Prescott closes him out on the road. I was jumping out of my seat cheering, holy shit, that's it, we did it. And then I look to my right and I look at Nick's face, and it's just completely like depression all over his face, just staring at the field like, oh my god, I can't believe that just happened. The sadness. I could literally see from the top of his head to the bottom of the toes. Oh my god. Now, Caleb, I know exactly how you felt when I went to Buffalo and you looked at me Now I
mean,
get to experience. It's awesome. It's great. It's the
That
best.
was much different though, because for me it was the whole entire match. You were like that. For
Yeah.
him, it was just like he actually kind of had hope until the last 20 seconds when he finally scored that touchdown. So I bet it was actually probably much worse for him because there was hope for him. But yeah, it was it must have been crazy though, for sure.
As soon as we called that second timeout after Dallas called their timeout, all hope actually left my body. There's no point to call that timeout and give them another 30 seconds to discuss.
I
what
thought
they
it was
could do
over the first
in the move.
down. I thought it was over. They were just gonna punch it in. It was gonna be done deal. But then I think what
fumble.
happened there was
The
the
fumble.
fumble, lost yards, and I was like, oh my god, Steelers might get. And then fourth down came around. I'm like, Dak Prescott probably gonna choke, but then he didn't. And then
Yeah.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong here, right? So, do you think it would have been more of a letdown? I would say less of a letdown because, in my opinion, I feel like it'd be less of a letdown if that touchdown happened on second down instead of fourth.
100%.
Like fourth down, you're like, okay, we just need one more stop, and this game is ours, right? As to where second down, you're like, okay, we got to stop them 3 times, and we just didn't, right? Like you kind of, it's like, oh, they're so close already. Second down, they just punch it in, whatever. But like fourth down, you're like on the edge of your seat, like this is the moment all football fans wait for, and then just to.
It was the best feeling ever. But not only that too, like if we did score on like that second down, they'd have like a full minute and a timeout left. So
Yeah,
that's why it wouldn't have been a letdown because we wouldn't have called that stupid timeout to give them a minute to talk about the most important play of the game. I would like to reiterate all individual conversations I had with you guys for 2 weeks leading up to this. I called the time frame of the game deciding play would be between 56 seconds and 23 seconds of the fourth quarter.
It was very specific. It was exactly.
And I think there was 26 left on that fourth down, so it was
when that ball was snapped and the ball was thrown at 23 or 22.
Yep. But yeah, Caleb, do you have any thoughts left? Watching that on the game, or do you?
Yeah, I mean, besides having to listen to Chris Collinsworth, it was pretty cool. I mean, I was kind of falling asleep halfway through it because it's just Cowboys and Steelers. Steelers defense and Cowboys doing what the Cowboys do. But yeah, I mean, towards the end of the game, I was on the edge of my seat too. And I think there's always something different too, especially with these two teams. I mean, Dallas Cowboys and Steelers, they got a lot of history, a lot of Super Bowl wins underneath each of their belts. I think it was a pretty big game. So yeah, I mean, it was a pretty cool game to watch, and you get to watch it every 4 years. So it's just one of those games. Everyone's got to watch it.
So before we head on to pick'ems, I just want give us a grade overall. Steelers Cowboys. How do you think they did, and what do you think were there improvements for the team? So if I start for me, for example, I would give the Cowboys a solid B because Dak we got a lot of turnovers. We didn't score in red zone opportunities, but when it actually mattered down to that last drive, we ended up closing out. Ton of injuries on our side, ton of turnovers, 2 interceptions and a fumble. All red zone opportunities, scoring opportunities. Brandon Aubrey had a blocked field goal, and we somehow came out with it. After all that disaster, I wouldn't say it was the best game from us, but we recovered, and in the end, we were able to win, which is a sign of hope, at least a little bit for me.
Then on that, I would give the Steelers a C minus compared to the beginning of the year. We as in the Cowboys game, it was a great game down to the end. No matter what, everyone was having fun in the stadium. Cowboys fans, Steelers fans, they were all heckling each other, talking with each other. It was a great atmosphere for both sides. But when it came down to those crucial plays, those red zone opportunities for Pittsburgh or the final drive, we just can't step up and make those crucial plays and stops when the game matters the most. So it feels like Pittsburgh's going in the wrong direction. And after the first 3 weeks of the season, me personally, I had high hopes for what we can do in the season, and now I'm sad, I'm depressed inside, I almost don't want to watch the Steelers game again. It feels like that we're going to end up at just barely above 500 again, and that's the new standard for Pittsburgh football when it was never the standard for
Do you think
Pittsburgh
that's a
football.
head coach thing? Like it's always been like
100%.
okay, okay.
Because of that as well, Tomlin gave in a press conference, which I didn't even notice during the game because I was so into the atmosphere and everything else. They severely reduced George Pickens' playing time. He's one of our best players on offense. He said it was reduced to improve efficiency out of him.
Yeah,
Which I
they
just
didn't get it
disagree
to him
with.
much. They didn't get too much. Brandon, Caleb, any
Right.
notable improvements, real quick, for either team?
Honestly,
No, you go. You go. I was waiting for you.
okay. We're doing age before beauty. Got it.
Yes, of course. Yeah.
So realistically, you know that Dallas has struggled heavily in the past few weeks. So coming into a very tough atmosphere in Pittsburgh, like you guys said, Sticks came on and Justin damn near shit his pants. Coming into a tough atmosphere in Pittsburgh, basically needing a win against a team that, in my opinion, hasn't really found their offensive identity. Obviously, on defense, they're solid, they're sound, they have been for a while. It's a huge win. Would I say it's an improvement? Personally, I don't think it's a great improvement. You're looking to score a lot of points against a team that doesn't score a lot of points. Obviously, their defense is great, but not being able to pull out a win in more than 20 seconds left in the game is kind of, I guess, a down look on Dallas right now. You know that they're a pass heavy offense, and it just came down to the last 20 seconds. You hate to see that as a Dallas fan, but you love to see the outcome, obviously. Pittsburgh has to find, for a letter grade, I'd say Dallas is probably pretty average. I mean, I'd probably say B minus to a C plus, somewhere in there. But for Steelers, I mean, like I said, they still have to find their offensive identity. Justin Fields' first few games, he was looking great. He kept the Steelers undefeated. A couple tough losses. And now Russell's fully healthy. He's coming back to practice full time. Tomlin has said multiple times he's not giving the starting role to anybody. We're gonna see, how it goes. The whole thing with George Pickens, they're scrambling on offense right now, and I think that loss was a pretty tough one to swallow. So for them, I'd probably give them a C minus.
Yeah, the grades are pretty good. I'd have to agree around the B and C area. B for Dallas, C for Steelers, of course. I know there's a lot of injuries on Dallas' side, so that's a pretty big win for them there. But these are two teams that I had a lot of high hopes for coming into the season. I thought they were going to be two pretty big teams, especially with the quarterback changes for the Steelers. I thought Russell and Justin Fields could actually bring something to the table, but their offense just seems stale still. George Pickens, whether he's not being utilized enough, or I don't know if you guys have seen the clips of him not really showing that much effort on the field. I don't know what it is over there, but it's something that didn't just magically happen this season. It's been a thing for last season, maybe even before that, where the offense is just not good. It's just not clicking. It's not carrying its weight. So they definitely got to figure out something there, and it has to happen soon. I mean, of course, the record doesn't entirely indicate it, but they've kept it close with everyone they've played against, and most of that is thanks to the defense. So yeah, they definitely have to figure that one out. And for the Cowboys, it was a great comeback kind of win there for them, especially with all their injuries. Dak Prescott, I mean, while he had his two interceptions on two separate days, mind you, which was pretty cool. He looked pretty all right. Him and CeeDee Lamb and even Tolbert showed out that last half, and they got the win, which is very big for him, especially with the last couple of games that they had. They kind of needed it against a good Steelers defense. So
Beautiful. All right, folks. Let's move on to our pick'ems. Let's start out with Thursday night football here, and we're going to Seattle. 49ers, a struggling, desperate 49ers team. For me, with the last primetime game that the Seahawks had against the Lions, their offense was absolutely incredible. I think this is going to stick it close, and I'm going to take the Seahawks plus 3-5. Almost thought about taking them here for the win, but I do believe it'll be close, and I'm going to have the 49ers edge out, but I'm going to take a Seahawks spread plus 3-5.
That's pretty wild because I literally was on the same thought path, the same process here. 49ers are really struggling. They're not the 49ers that we once knew. And now, who is it? Fred Warner is out, I believe. He's injured. He's not going to be playing. And the Seahawks offense can be very, very electric. We saw that in the first few games of the year. However, they didn't really play formidable opponents. But even against Detroit, they showed up and they scored a lot of points against Detroit. So I think they're going to keep it close. The Niners are struggling, and I think CMC is the piece that's really going to put them all together. I don't know how one player – I mean, it is CMC. I don't know how one player is really making the difference, but at 2-3, they got Debo back. They have Ayuk playing. They got Kittle back. All their weapons are there except for CMC, but they're still 2-3, and they lost a big piece on defense. So I'm taking the Seahawks spread at 3.5, plus 3.5.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna lie. I had the same thing. I had the Seahawks spread 3.5. You know, they're both coming off of losses. Seahawks against the Giants, which I didn't see that coming. And the 49ers against Cardinals, which was also pretty wild. I mean, it's a divisional matchup. It's going to be close. So I will take the 3.5. I actually think the Seahawks might pull it out in the end. But I'll hedge my bets here with the Seahawks at the plus 3.5 spread.
Well, what a way to start the pick'ems then, because I also have Seahawks plus 3.5.
Oh my God!
Oh.
Nick is coming in. First
Damn, that's a
episode.
four sweep. That's a four sweep.
Almost exactly what Justin said. I almost took them for the win outright as well. It's just what you guys said as well. Like, they're still struggling without CMC, and off of their last injury report, Funga didn't practice. Warner was limited. Every one of those players on their injury report, there were 10 of them. 6 of the 10 were defensive key players. So because of that, it's always a good game between the Seahawks and 49ers. I think the Seahawks are going to come out and keep it within a field goal at least.
All right, we're heading on to Sunday morning. Where is this one? Is this in London again too, or is this
a Londoner?
Another London game?
Oh,
we have the Jags and the Bears. Now, this one's kind of crazy to me because I feel like the Jags always play well over in international games, and I think this is their back-to-back week too that they have it. It seems like this should be like a no-brainer. Like, the Bears are up and up, the Jags are down and down, and the spread is so low here at only minus 2.5 for the Bears. It kind of has me question do I take Jags here? But I think just for the momentum of the Bears right now, the league, I have to take the Bears minus 2.5. But to be completely honest, I wouldn't be surprised if this is one of those like whoopsie daisies where Jags wins international game here. But for betting this week, Bears minus 2.5.
I'm going to take the same thing, honestly, and this is starting to look scary for the Fast Boys here. I'm taking the Bears 2.5, but I think, honestly, the way that the Bears are playing and the progression in Caleb Williams, the way he's been playing, I feel like this is obvious. Jacksonville is not in a good spot right now by any means. And I think that, honestly, the Bears might win by over a territory in London, but the Jags just aren't looking good. The Bears are looking a lot better. So I'm taking the Bears minus 2.5.
Before Caleb goes, might I add, I did hit the alternate. Remember I said they would win by 21 or over? They hit that.
Oh, yeah, that's very true. That's very true, they did. But yeah, I mean, same reasoning here. For the most part, it's only because it's such a low spread here for me. I think the Chicago Bears are just a much better team. I think it's going to be a lower scoring game, mainly because the Bears' defense has really surprised me this year. So I think the Bears are going to clutch it out in the end. It is London game, like you said. Trevor Lawrence and Jacksonville Jaguars. They play great in London for whatever reason. So yeah, but I'm gonna give it to the Bears at the -2.5 spread.
There's no way we do this back to back. I'm also
Stop
taking
it.
the Bears
Stop
minus
it.
2.5. Almost exactly what Brandon said as well with the Caleb Williams improvement throughout the year from the way he started under 50% completion rate and for like 90 yards compared to what he's been doing in the past few weeks, along with the input of DeAndre Swift. I also did a little like background research of it. Their total record, they're 5-3 against each other, with the Bears winning that series. Every game the Bears have won have been by a field goal or more. And of the games the Jags have won has been by a 1-point win in the final seconds of the game. So just because of that alone, I think with the momentum that the Bears had, like Justin said as well, it's going to be at least a field goal win, if not more.
All right, that's 2 in a row with the fast sweep. By the way, we had a very, very good week last week. I think it was one of our best hits of the year this year. So I'm not down on the clean sweep so far. But we're going on to Eagles Browns, 1 o'clock window Sunday, and we have -8.5 for the Eagles. For me, off the bye week, I'm gonna take it. I'm going to take the points, -8.5. Browns look completely in shambles. They're visiting Philadelphia. And I think off the bye, I think A.J. Brown is possibly back this week as well. I'm not 100% sure on that. But if he's back, I see him hitting this. Their offense is going to explode. They needed the bye week. I think this is a good pickup game for them. I'm taking the points here for the Eagles.
Yeah, the Eagles, I don't know. Obviously, they have not looked too good in the first few weeks of the season, and well, more than a few weeks. But AJ Brown on their bye week, obviously, but they didn't play because it's a bye week. I don't have to explain that to you guys. You guys are smart people. I think coming off of a bye week, getting rested up, I don't know what's up with Devonta Smith. I don't know if he's back or not, but AJ Brown is back. It's just a question of how angry Saquon gets at any point during the game, honestly. 8.5 is a long, long stretch. I don't think the Eagles cover the 8.5, so I'm going to sit pretty on the money line for the Eagles. I do think they win this game. 8.5 is kind of a lot, though. So I will sit money line Eagles.
I would disagree. I think the Eagles are going to come out and absolutely spank on the Browns. The Browns don't look good. Deshaun Watson doesn't look good. Amari Cooper, who I thought was great, has just seemed to not really care all that much because I just don't think it's there for the offense at all. And even that defense is not what I thought it would be this year. So they still haven't impressed me by any means. And Philly's coming off that bye, and it's at home, and I think it's all up for Eagles and all down for the Browns. So I'm gonna take the spread at -8.5 for the Eagles.
So we didn't do it this time. It's Jalen Hurts' first time playing the Browns. Watson has played against the Eagles when he was on Houston. I know that was a while ago. He didn't do bad in that game. The Eagles are going to win this game, absolutely, but I think that spread is a lot to cover, so I think the Browns take within the spread, so I'm taking the Browns plus 8.5 for that. I don't think the Eagles win by much. I think, just like how last week in the podcast, Justin said, the Jags had to win a game, and this is one of the games with the struggles the Eagles had. I think this can be that one good game the Browns have before the rest of their season falls apart.
I could see that happening. Honestly, I could see that as well, and I like the pick. We're gonna go to, and I see I already foresee something going on for this game. I'm just gonna throw that out there before we even give our picks. Commanders Ravens. We're going to Baltimore. The spread right now is huge for the Ravens, minus
It is
6.5.
huge.
That is wild.
Which is kind of crazy to seeing how well Jaden Daniels has been slinging the ball. Their offense looks amazing. Their defense is only going to pick up with Dan Quinn behind the helm there. We're in Baltimore, and surprisingly enough for me, against all that, the Ravens just look like they're on the top tier level of play right now. Derrick Henry going off. Lamar three-peat question mark. I'm actually going to take the spread for the Ravens. Very surprising. I know. Holy crap! They're going to win by a touchdown. What? Yeah, I think this is where the Commanders really show against those top level, top tier teams, and I'm going to have Ravens minus 6.5.
So both teams obviously have been looking great. I will say the Ravens, I hate to say it, they just looked absolutely phenomenal against the Bills. They have been looking phenomenal. However, so have the Commanders. Now, I think this is the biggest test of Jaden Daniels' young career. Don't get me wrong. I just think 6.5 is a lot to cover. For that reason, and I think that reason alone, I'm going to take the 6.5 for the Commanders. I think they keep it within a touchdown, and I think it might honestly be game of the week. I'm not going to lie to you.
Yeah, this is going to be a really great game. Two very phenomenal offenses. Last week, Lamar Jackson. Not only was that offense for the Baltimore Ravens great rushing, but also Lamar Jackson had a fantastic passing game as well. So if he can keep this up and he can keep both the running and the passing going, I think it's going to be very, very one-sided for the Ravens. Washington Commanders, while Jaden Daniels has looked fantastic and that offense has looked great, it's really just the defense that is holding me back from taking the Commanders. And so I will be taking the Ravens. But if it's going to be by a touchdown, it's going to be really tough for me. I am a little scaredy cat, so if it were me, I would be betting for just the Ravens money line and not even touching the spreads because it is a very big spread.
For my first ever whoopsie daisy.
Oh my God.
God.
Oh my God.
His first
I-
ever.
Nicholas
have-
comes in hot with one of the biggest spreads.
Wow.
Oh my God.
Holy shit.
I do indeed. How you guys are talking about the Ravens being one of the top teams in the NFL? They are, but so are the Commanders. Jaden Daniels is looking good. I know their defense isn't 100%, but honestly, the Ravens isn't either. After the Bengals have struggled in the beginning of the season, it came down to the fact that it was a missed field goal is why the Ravens won the game last week. The Ravens have allowed 8.1 yards per pass attempt, and the Commanders are averaging 8.5 per attempt. So I think Jaden Daniels is going to start slinging the ball around against the Ravens defense. They're not going to know what's happening. They're going to try to start to stop that pass attack, and then Jaden Daniels is going to take off and run. He's going to do exactly what Lamar does to other teams.
Oh. Oh.
Yeah, that's honestly, I like the whoopsie daisy there. That's going to be really fun to watch. And we're going into New England for our next pick'em. We have the Texans visiting team as the 7-point favorites. Do they hold out? I'm saying yes, they do. I'm taking the points for the Texans as well. This is just one of those other teams too. Going back to last week, the battle of the literally the point spread, Texans Bills, and it's just that battle. They pull it out. They find ways to win the game. I have them as the best record in the NFL this year. I don't see them slowing down to the Patriots at all. I think they can cover a touchdown.
This is crazy. Everyone buckle in because, no, this is not a whoopsie daisy, but I think the Patriots cover the spread this week. I'm going to take the Patriots +7. They obviously just named Drake May as their starting quarterback. And as a rookie starting quarterback, yes, you have a lot of pressure on you, but playing a very good team, you're not looking to make the big plays. You know your season isn't going well, and it's not going to go well into the playoffs. So at this point, you're looking for very solid, sound reps to get yourself acquainted. You're looking not for the long bombs. You're looking for short passes. You're looking to find your accuracy. You're looking for timing. I think with the Patriots possibly being a better defensive team that we've seen in the beginning of the year, they might come back to that. The Texans have not looked like a powerhouse team. So I'm going to say the Patriots will keep it close. Maybe the Houston Texans play down to the level. Maybe Drake May comes up, but I think the Patriots will cover the +7 spread.
Yeah, the Patriots couldn't even beat the Dolphins, and the Dolphins suck. So I'm gonna go Texans pretty easily here. Um, and yeah, that's about that. So
And
Very
for my,
well.
I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
Oh,
I'm not
I
doing
almost threw up.
that. But almost exactly what Brandon just said. I'm also taking the Pats +7. I think they cover the spread here. Drake May starting, I think, is going to be huge for them. It's might be a huge improvement. Yes, there's a lot of uncertainty about that. But for that Dolphins comparison, they didn't have May in. It was still Brissett. It was still not great. And in terms of the Texans not looking like that powerhouse, they have the possibility of no Nico Collins this week. He's on a week to week basis right now. He's a huge part of their offense. Without him being there, I think that's going to significantly hinder what they can do as an offense. And it's going to make it a closer game than it realistically should be.
I disagree. Well,
All
we'll
right,
see.
we're kind of split there. We got a 2-2 there, so we'll watch that game for sure. Going into Lambeau, Green Bay Packers taking on the Cardinals at -5 at home for the Packers. Um, I almost thought about taking the Cardinals here, but now that we have official word that Kyler Murray is actually partnering with Call of Duty and doing some collab with them, I think their season is over, and I'm taking Packers at home -5. And
I
that's it.
think their season is over.
They did
Is
have a
that
great
is that your whole
game.
basis for it? Is that your whole
That's it.
basis?
That's literally it. They had a great game against the Niners, damaged Niners team. They looked phenomenal, but after we got word of that, it's done.
Oh, dude, that's hilarious. That's so funny. Oh God. All right. Well, uh, so yeah, they did look really good against the Niners, but the Niners, like we said, are kind of a they're going through a tough time right now. I will say that. I am going to take the Cardinals spread here. Lambeau's a very tough place to play, but the Cardinals, brother, you were so high on them in the beginning of the year, and they looked pretty good. I mean, against the Bills, they look pretty sound, solid, and I think they hold out and they keep it within 5. So I will take the Cardinals spread for this one.
Yeah. I mean, it's very sound reasoning from Justin. I can't lie. I mean, the Call of Duty thing is pretty big. I mean, Kyler Murray. Every time it's a new Call of Duty drops, this dude also just drops his team. It's insane. But in Lambeau, Green Bay, looking like an offensive powerhouse almost. I mean, obviously Jordan Love has had a few questionable throws here and there. But we'll chalk that up to maybe some jitters. Who knows? But Cardinals obviously came off the big win. Can they reciprocate it with the Green Bay Packers? I don't think so. I think the Green Bay Packers will cover the spread at -5. I think they win probably just by a touchdown. I think it will be a relatively close game. But I mean, if the Green Bay Packers defense can keep doing what they have been doing, especially what's his name there, Xavier McKinney, five interceptions, 5 games. That's pretty incredible. So if they can keep that up, I think they'll cover it.
I have Cardinals +5 on this, off of the win on the 49ers because they are still a good team, even though they do have those missing pieces. But also off of a big fact that the last two matchups between the Packers and Cardinals were decided by 3 points. The last time the Packers had a win of three or greater points, excuse me, greater than 3 points against the Cardinals was in 2012 with Aaron Rodgers. So
Wow.
off of that, it's been a close game with Jordan Love as quarterback and Kyler Murray in those matchups. Um, I think the Cardinals cover the spread and potentially do come out and win this in Lambeau because they do have Marvin Harrison Jr. and James Conner. They are very key points on that offense, and as Kyler showed last week with his rushing abilities as quarterback as well.
That's pretty interesting. I didn't know. I do have him. I still have him as like my sleeper team, but I'm losing faith ever since that Call of Duty deal came out. We're going into Tennessee. We basically have a pick'em game here. Colts at -1 heading into Titans, and usually, traditionally, if you listen back to the podcast, I would take the home team in these pick'em games. But who's starting? Will Levis or Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer? If we got Levis, I'm just looking out for the meme picture coming in. But I think
As far as I
regardless,
know, it's Levis, but I don't know. I'm as far as I know, it is Levis.
yeah, man, I want to. I say regardless, I'm going to take the Colts here at -1, and yeah, I don't have a lot of faith and belief in that Titans team. So at least Colts have a little something going on, especially with their newly found quarterback, the old guy. But yeah, I think the Colts win this -1.
So I have no other reasoning because Anthony Richardson is named the starter as long as he's healthy. I don't know if there's been confirmation that he's healthy enough to start. I have no reason to say this, but I'm taking this is a famous quote from Caleb. This is an eyeball avoider. I'm taking the Colts
Crazy.
-1 against the Titans, and I have no real good reasoning behind just -1.
The
Sure.
old classic eyeball avoider.
I'm telling you, it's the only way to describe these games.
That's funny. I have that in big capital letters across this game for me.
The eyeball avoider. Yeah, it is. I mean, I don't. Is Anthony Richardson back too?
I think
'Cause-
he might be.
I think he is. I think this might be the first week he comes back, and I'm pretty sure the Colts said that they would start him over Joe Flacco. So really, yeah, this is especially an eyeball avoider. I don't think it's gonna be great to watch. Maybe he'll have one of those cool throws we saw in like week 1 or 2 or whatever it was. That was pretty neat, but I haven't seen anything like that obviously since. I mean, obviously he had his injury, but yeah. So eyeball avoider. But I will take Colts -1 spread because why not?
Yep.
Yep, that's exactly what I have. Eyeball avoider in big capital letters in my notes, and Colts -1. And there's nothing really else to say about it. This entire game, it will be one I'm not looking forward to ever seeing any updates about.
Those are usually the ones where you get a lot of cool stuff happening, the stuff that ends up on Twitter the next day. So I'm definitely watching that game. All right, we're going to a divisional. Buccaneers heading into New Orleans. Saints coming off that prime time loss. Our whoopsie daisy followed through a little bit there. I have no
Yikes.
I have no clue
Yeah.
why we ever considered that to happen.
Yeah.
I just the
I
Chiefs-
just want to see a Kansas City lose. Okay.
Yeah,
I'll admit
yeah.
it. I
I
wanna see
think
them
that's
die.
what
I
it
wanna see
boils
them
down
lose.
to. That's exactly what it boils down to. But Bucks got the -3 here, -3.5, and man, I don't know what happened. I think Derek Carr's out too. He had a oblique injury. I don't know if that's like an extended injury or if he's returning this week. But yeah, I mean, I think even way with the way they've been going downhill fast, it seems like they haven't gotten Kamara involved as much as they should. That guy was carrying the whole entire team on his back. But Bucks look really good here. Saints going downhill. I'm gonna take the momentum here and go with Bucks -3.5.
So the Saints are actually starting Spencer Rattler this week. Derek Carr is confirmed out. And for that reason, and actually multiple reasons, like you said, the Saints are going downhill. The Bucks have Caleb, who is their starting quarterback?
Daddy.
Okay, yep. So we're gonna go Bucks -3.5. Yeah, I'm going Bucks -3.5. It should be a no-brainer here. Bucks win this game by a lot.
Yeah, the Derek Carr thing is pretty big. I actually, if he was starting, if he was healthy, I actually would have considered starting the Saints. The Saints here, mainly because their defense has been playing fairly well. Obviously, they gave up 26 points at Kansas City, but that is Kansas City. But yeah, with the injury at quarterback, it's kind of hard to bet for him. I think Tampa Bay will cut this out, and so I'll go with the Bucs spread.
Well, we finally did it again. We all took Buck spread on this.
It's been a while, but we arrived
Um,
there again.
it took a little bit. There's some detours along the way. Off the fact that it's a short week for the Saints, long week for the Bucks. And Caleb, what's their quarterback's name again?
Daddy.
Yeah, he's playing absolutely insane.
You guys got to
This
stop
season.
using that so
He's
much.
Yeah, I know. I'm sorry.
We're
he's
gonna get
he's
flagged, dude.
Yeah,
he's, he's
I
doing
just
real
love Baker
good.
Mayfield. That dude he's just one of us. All right, he's my favorite. He's great. I love
He's a
watching him.
He's doing real good this season. I think he's gonna have another great game. Um, yeah, I think even if the spread may have been 6.5, I probably still would have taken it.
I agree. This might be an alternate spread game for me. I think they win by a touchdown. But yeah, we're heading into Las Vegas. Raiders, Steelers coming in, visiting team off of a
Mhm.
heartbreaking loss in Pittsburgh last week against the one and only Dallas Cowboys. I actually have a -3 here. I think they bounce back. Kind of like same thing, Cowboys. It's like a desperation mode with a schedule coming up, and you need a win here. You just lose at home. Raiders are in shambles, and I think their defense is not going to really allow too much to happen over there on the Raiders side. And I don't even know if Adams is back for this either. I think he's still out with a hamstring. I think. Even so, I think they hold them to that field goal. I got Steelers -3.
I also have Steelers -3. Like you said, the Raiders are absolutely in shambles. We don't even know who the starting quarterback is going to be, if it's going to be Aiden O'Connell or Gardner Minshew. I don't even think Devonta Adams is going to be there by the time the game starts. Not going to lie, he wants out. Everybody knows he wants out. There's teams in the hunt for him, trying to sign him, and I think he's going to leave. We all know that his hamstring isn't really hurt. We all know that this is him saying, "I'm not playing for this team again until ever. I'm getting traded. I'm not going to play again." Steelers -3 all the way.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, sound reasoning both ways. Steelers defense is still Steelers defense, and the Raiders offense is just horrible. Devonta Adams is a Buffalo Bill. I hate to break it to everyone else. Just kidding. That is just the copium speaking. He probably won't be, and I will cry about it just a little bit. But yeah, I'll go the Steelers spread at -3.
I don't even want to talk about this game.
Poor
After
Nick.
after watching last week, I have this also in big capital letters just because of my own sheer sadness as an eyeball avoiding potential. Um, the Steelers just have consistently found new ways to disappoint throughout the season. Against the Colts, against the Cowboys. Um, there's a big thing where after the press conference for the Cowboys game, the entire defense said there is a lack of communication across the board in the passing game, and that's leading to struggles and it's leading to issues for the defense. The Fields question behind the O line that isn't protecting him, and is he making the right decisions? Is Wilson coming in? But at the end of it, I do think the defense can get their stuff together, cover the spread, and hold it out if we can just get in Boswell field goal range and have Boswell become the next Brandon Aubrey who hasn't gotten a kick block this year.
You know what? Why'd you have to add that?
You know what?
All right, let's go to Denver. Chargers coming off the bye, coming into Denver. Chargers are -3 in this game, and I think they crush it. I think they come back strong. I like the week off coming in. Broncos defense looking really solid. I like what they're doing. But J.K. Dobbins going to have a 200-yard game here, and they're going to win by this field goal. I'm taking Chargers -3.
I completely disagree with you, brother. I'm sorry to say it. Denver has been looking very, very, very good. Their pass rush has been absolutely insane, and they're coming and playing. Well, they're not coming. They're staying in Denver. They're playing in Denver against a hurt Justin Herbert was they have a high ankle sprain or something like that. Their pass rush is too good. The pressure on him is going to be immense. J.K. Dobbins might have a good game, but I'm taking for my first whoopsie daisy of the week. I'm taking the Denver Broncos against the LA Chargers.
Wow. Pretty crazy. I'll disagree with one of you and agree with one of you. Which one that is, you'll figure out in 1 second when I say that the Denver Broncos actually look pretty solid. Of course it was against the Raiders. I know that. All right. I hear everyone yapping at me. All right. Ooh, it's against the Raiders. They don't. Okay. They still look fine. Okay. All right. They still played good football. Their defense looks very good. Okay. I'll say that. And the Chargers, while they have looked much better than I thought they would, I think they also, still offensively got some stuff to work on. I think it's going to be a very low scoring game. Also because the Chargers defense is also pretty good. I think it will be kept within a field goal. I think the Chargers will edge it out, but I think they won't be able to cover that spread. So I will take the Denver Broncos spread at +3. I think it'll be a close game, though.
And for my actual second whoopsie daisy,
Hell yeah.
I have the Broncos winning this game outright.
Yeah.
The Chargers allowed this year so far 9.6 yards per reception. That means almost, on average, every pass is a first down. Almost a first down against the Chargers defense this year. And last year, Broncos and Chargers played 2 times with Mr. Broncos Country Let's Ride. And he was able to beat the Chargers really bad in both games last year. If my memory serves me correctly, now that they have Bo Nix, who's a phenomenal quarterback compared to Russell Wilson in Denver, I think he's going to tear apart the Chargers' passing defense and throw for 350 in like the first half.
Dang.
That is a bold claim. Y'all went Broncos. That's kind of crazy. You got to remember, though.
Hey, I didn't, technically.
You didn't, but you have them a spread. Well, I see all Broncos across the board here. Spread, money, spread. But either way, you all forgetting one key factor. The new coaching staff there, the game management, all that history behind. And, yeah, you have a lot of different pieces. I'm high in the Chargers here. But regardless, we're going.
Yeah, I was going to say, can we not talk about game management after I had to watch the Bills lose the game against the Texans? Okay, let's move on.
Yeah, that was.
I actually want to point out on how sad Justin got when he started talking about this game after I mentioned Brandon Aubrey's field goal being blocked. He sounded just very, very depressed inside.
All right, that's the second time you brought that up. Third time, I'm kicking you out. All right, we're going to Texas. Speaking of the Cowboys here, they're the home dogs here. 0-2 at home so far this year, 3-0 away, and they are taking on the Detroit Lions. And what I'll say about here is I've gotten every single bet wrong so far on the Cowboys this year. So do exact opposite of what I say if you're following my bets. And for this one, I think we're going to look like the week 2 against the Saints. There's absolutely no way our defense is going to be able to move anything against that Detroit offensive line. They're going to run all over us. And Goff and Sam Laporta-Potty and Amon-Ra are going to go for probably 200 yards each. I see a 400-yard game incoming, 200 yards on the game. This is probably going to be like a 48-3 because our best player on the team is going to score at least a little bit of points. But I have the Lions -3.
Who's your best player on the team, Rico Dowdle? Okay, yeah, I have the same outcome.
Aubrey.
No, Brandon Aubrey, dude.
Yeah,
Well, you never know. They could, throw fucking Rico in there for a quick field goal. It's like when I played Madden back in the day against you, brother, and I punted on accident and I taking a field goal. Crazy things happen. But yeah, I'm taking I'm taking Detroit -3 pretty simply here. Like I said with the Steelers Cowboys game, the Cowboys just don't have it right now. I don't know if they will. We saw a little clip of CD getting after it with Dak. I don't know what that's all about, but it might just be game frustration. I still don't see them tying it all together, so I'm taking Detroit -3.
Yeah, I think Justin finally got one right here. It's pretty clear to me. I don't think this one will be that close either. But you never know. Maybe Dallas Cowboys turn it around and start to look like a good team again. But probably not. I don't see it happening, especially after the Lions just had their bye and they came off a pretty great offensive match against the Seattle Seahawks. So I don't see it happening. I'll go the Lions spread -3.
And for back-to-back whoopsie daisies,
Oh my God.
What?
There's
I
no
have
way.
I have the Cowboys winning this outright
What?
money line, building on the momentum of a huge must-win game of Pittsburgh. Sad as I was to see them lose, uh, Justin has been saying it all week. They had to absolutely win that game, and now they have a little bit of momentum. They got things done on offense without the ball going to CD every single play and every single touchdown. They were able to get things done. So I see them continuing on that momentum. Maybe that CD and Dak getting into it. They're getting some sort of connection now after that because that was in the Steelers game after Dak threw that pick. I see them building on this momentum and outright winning this game against the Lions.
Wow.
I'm going
That's
to point out
wild.
that I think this is actually the first time that Nicholas and I have a different prediction.
I also believe that. I think we even had the same whoopsie daisies.
I think you're right.
I think this is actually
That's
the first
surprising.
time that we hit it.
I'm actually surprised to hear that. You're giving me a little bit of hope, but I know there's none. All right, we're going on to Carolina. Falcons taking on the Panthers. Panthers at home +6. Can they move it? Are they going to win? Absolutely not. Falcons -6.
Falcons -6.
Falcons -6.
Falcons -6. Kirk Cousins, Tank Dell, Trey Coleman. That's all I need.
Oh my
There we go.
God,
All
that's-
right.
All right,
okay,
yeah, cool.
that's we'll put that
Keep the
on
line
record as the fastest pick'em we've ever done and ever will do in the history of this podcast.
And there's 4 of us.
Yeah, and there's
Oh,
4 of
geez.
us. Yeah.
yeah.
All right. Yeah. I mean, nothing to say about that. Yeah, we're going on to New York and Bengals primetime game. This is going to be pretty interesting. The Giants pull out a win against the Seattle Seahawks. What the heck happened last week?
Without Malik Neighbors.
Entering the stadium, I'm checking the updates of the game, and is that wrong? Like, is Google telling me something wrong here? The Giants didn't win this game, did they? What the heck happened to the Giants, and what the heck was it? Just a fluke, one of those whoopsie daisies that we so call about. There's no way they do it again. Bengals are like, they're at the point of their season now where if they lose literally one game in the next 6 weeks, their season's over. And I think they know that. And I feel like they pick up the heat here. Their offense is looking good. And maybe some work on the defense side, but I don't think they let this game slip through again. I'm going to take a -3.5. The Bengals, that is.
We obviously saw a big game. Seahawks losing to the Giants. Wan'Dale Robinson, Malik Neighbors, Daniel Jones, I will say, looked pretty good. He did look pretty good against the Seahawks. Obviously, I say that knowing that Daniel Jones is probably one of the worst quarterbacks in the league. I digress. I actually have the Giants at +3.5. The Bengals just played a very, very, very difficult game against Baltimore and just barely lost because of a miscue. They should have won the game. Everybody knows it, but they lost. Spirits are down. Their record's down. Everybody's down. They have to come out and win this game, but I think they overreach. And I think the Giants keep it rolling, and I have them +3.5. I don't know if they're going to win, but I think they're going to at least keep it within that spread.
I disagree with that. I think the Bengals are going to come out and they're going to put up a lot of points on the board, and I don't think the Giants will be able to reciprocate that. Where I will say the Giants will probably have a pretty decent game. I just think the Bengals are just going to outscore them on offense, and it's going to be kind of a high scoring game, but that's what they've all been for Cincinnati. And we're gonna have to see what the Giants can do to rebuttal the Bengals. But yeah, I don't see them putting up as many points as the Bengals. So I'm gonna take the Bengals spread at -3.5.
I will also be taking Bengals -3.5 on this for the same reason. It's a must win for the Bengals. They're what 1-4 now. They need to win this game, and they should have beaten the Ravens like that was said. And it was just like a switch flipped. That was said in the preseason podcast. Each week of the podcast, post week 4, Bengals is a different football team. The way they played against the Ravens was very well. I think they're going to continue building on the momentum that in a game they should have won. They should be 2-3 at the current moment, and I think they're going to end up stacking some wins together.
Alrighty, guys. Monday Night Football, the game you've all been waiting to talk about. Bills taking on the Jets, divisional matchup, and huge news dropped on the Jets side. They no longer have their head coach, Mr. Saleh, over there. Interim head coach steps in, their defensive coordinator. Is this going to be the motion that they need to get this offense rolling? It almost seems like Aaron Rodgers has taken out every head coach he's ever worked with. Maybe he should be the head coach. But what I will say for this game is the Jets and the Bills will split this year. So they're going to win one game against each other each. And because of that reason, I'm going to take a money line Jets here. I don't know if you consider it a 2-point spread, but if it's a whoopsie daisy, it's a whoopsie daisy. Just by the fact that I think they're going to go 1-1, even in my preseason predictions before I even got to this game. Jets are going to win one, Bills are going to win one. Even though Bills came off a very hard-fought, tough game management questions at the end there. Looking good. I think with everything happening and the coaching staff and teams that pick up right after their head coach gets fired and all of a sudden they just have this boom game, I think this is the game they take from the Bills. And then when Bills go home, they'll take one from the Jets. So I'm going +2. Or money line for Jets. It's a whoopsie daisy if you count it for that low of a spread.
Bills by 40.
That's actually nuts.
Obviously, I'm not actually saying Bills by 40, but the Bills are going to win pretty big here. You don't come off of an embarrassing loss, fire your head coach, come into a very tough opponent in the Bills, and win the game. Maybe they do split down the road, but I don't think this is the game to do it. The Jets are really struggling right now. They just don't look like a good football team. Aaron Rodgers looked absolutely terrible. Yes, he played Minnesota, and a back-to-back against Minnesota and then Buffalo. Very, very hard sell. So I'm taking the Bills. I will say Bills by like maybe 2 touchdowns.
Well, I have a differing opinion as a Bills fan. I actually agree with Justin. I think they're going to split. And I have this thing where every time there's a big change, especially at like a head coaching position, the other team they just apparently play like 10 times better just because, I mean, that's what happened with the Raiders last year. They fired whatever his name was, McDaniels or whatever his name was, and they got Antonio Pierce, and then they looked like a really good football team for like 2 games, and then it went back to how they were. And for some reason, I just have a feeling that it's going to happen again with the Jets, and they're just going to ball out on our defense, which is crippled again. And I mean, I know we got Terrell Bernard back, and he looked fantastic last week, but it wasn't enough, obviously. Yeah, I don't know. The Bills have absolutely crushed all of my hope, and I hope I'm wrong, but I'm going to go with the Jets money line here too. I think they pull
So
it out.
that's 2 whoopsie daisies for Jets Bills.
Yeah, if you consider it that.
Yeah, most of the odds and pick'ems and ESPN and things are very much towards the Bills. It's something like 10% are for the
We'll
Jets.
count it.
Um, so I'll cap it off with the third whoopsie daisy in this game.
Nick's taking like five
Jet.
whoopsie daisies this week.
Yeah.
This is my fourth. This is my fourth. But there's a big reason for this. Off of what Caleb said with the something to prove with the firing of the coach, and he brought the Raiders example up, and I'll bring up the Steelers example of the offensive coordinator last year, Matt Canada, when we finally showed him the door very forcefully. We came out and looked like a great football team for like 2 weeks. And the biggest factor about this all is it's Bills on a Monday night game, primetime against the Jets at MetLife. It's the same setting of when Aaron Rodgers took the field last year and tore his Achilles, so he has
Oh,
something to prove now against the team that he died to last year. So I feel like this game's going to be a little more personal to him than others for the season, and he's going to play absolutely lights out to show that he overcame that. It's a revenge arc in a sense against the team that ended his season in 4 seconds.
and in that sense, the Bills have the chance to do the funniest thing imaginable.
Oh my
Do it
god.
again.
No. What I will
No, just
say
kidding.
though is I do have Bills still the favorite to win that division. It's
Oh, for sure.
yeah. I do think they win it out pretty easily towards the end of the year. It just seems like as far as I can remember, the Jets and Bills always split every year. I can't remember, but as far as I can think, the last time where someone swept those divisional games. But all right, we'll end the pick'ems there. That was the Monday night game. Lock in your bets. Records on the board. We're doing pretty good this year. I like the track we're on, and last week was a really good week for all of us. So we're going to continue on to a very quick fantasy portion of the podcast, and this is after the first bye week of the year. Looking at your team, how you preserve your season. So whether you're 4-1 league leaders right now, hitting your buys and you have to taking out your starters and you don't have bench depth, how do you preserve your 4-1? Do you start moving pieces? Do you hold on to your guys and just try to work past your buys? You very valuable picks that you don't think are going to score a lot of points towards the end of the year, but they've done really well for you for the first few weeks. How's the bye weeks going to affect those 4-1s? Vice versa. You're 1-4. What do you have to do to save your season? And for me, if you're 1-4, odds are making your fantasy playoffs. You got to make some moves. As me kicking off the fantasy thing, if you're sitting at 1-4 right now, bottom of the league, sell out your high guys. Don't hold on to them. You need more pieces. You need the depth on your bench. Everyone's hitting buy, even if you have to take um, just quantity for your top guys to get those points. You got to do it. You got to make moves. The waiver wires aren't going to do it for you at this point. Get quantity on your benches, clear out, do kind of a team swap. You need quick wins. Look for week to week, and just try to pick up those high hitters and quantity over like your draft. You know the top guys that you picked at the draft. 4-1 is it's always been a question of me of whether you hold out. How many? I mean, your top dogs. How many of those have realistically have hit the buy? How many are you going to swap out? If you swap out your top scorers, are you done for the week because your top scorers on the bench because of his buy? This might be the same scenario of you have a lead, keep rolling with it, take another week win, get a couple games ahead of the crew, and yeah, I don't know. It's always a question for me sitting at 4-1 is like, I mean, I'm winning. Do I roll it out or do I or make moves too? You know, picking up the unheard of waiver wires. I think last year the waiver wire pickups was that did Puka like pop off right at week one where everyone's like grabbing him off a week one like, oh my god, who is this guy? Or did that happen a couple weeks into the year? I feel like it was one of like around this time, but um, either way, I think the main thing for me is you got to make changes when you're 1-4. Just start throwing trades everywhere. That's how you preserve your season. That's how you save it. And that's pretty much my fantasy recap. I'm not going to really get into players because it could be literally any scenario. You could have any person on your team, but look at your high draft picks that you had, and start getting quantity for your higher value players, and start moving around your benches and get quick week wins.
I'm going to agree with actually a lot of what you said. If you're 1-4, you got to start going week by week. You got to come back. You got to fight back. Literally anything can happen in any week, whether it be fantasy or in football. But you got to start making moves right away to keep yourself in it. Now, your top dogs, maybe hang on to your top dog and trade the next two. Get like Justin said, get quantity over quality, because if you got some flops on your team, you pick up people that are going to get you 10 and 12 points instead of one person that might get you 20 or might flop for 6. Quality over quantity. You trade a big dog for two people that are pretty solid, sound, get you average points. Like this week, I had Aaron Jones and Zach Moss against actually our father. I ended up beating him because I started Darnell Mooney and somebody, I can't remember who it was, but I digress. You got to find people that are going to get you solid points instead of a possible boom at like 25 points. Sitting at 4-1, you play weeks ahead. Look at the buys, look at the matchups, look at who you're playing, look at the rosters, maybe make a sneaky bench move for an upcoming matchup, but play weeks ahead. You're already ahead of the curve. If anybody's undefeated ahead of you, good for them. Awesome. But you're still sitting at 4-1. Your odds of making the playoffs are very outstanding. So play ahead. Look at matchups. Look at your future opponents and ride that wave. You don't have to look directly at week to week because you're already doing enough to score those points to get you at 4-1.
Yeah, pretty good stuff all around. I mean, I agree with most of the stuff they said about 1-4. You gotta make trades. You gotta look ahead. For me, one thing I'll tack on there is look at these split backfields. Injuries are very prevalent. Look at these things, and if there's someone on the waivers in a split backfield and they haven't been picked up, maybe stash them. I know it's 1-4. Obviously, you got to make your trades. So you gotta do something now. But for the future, towards the end of the season, you're gonna want to stash some of these guys. Just like at the very beginning, people stashed Jordan Mason because they had no idea what was gonna look like with Christian McCaffrey. And then week 1 comes around, and Christian McCaffrey's not playing, and he was a big pickup, especially for me. I picked him up in a lot of my leagues. But just look at things like that. Split backfields are very big. One guy I'll say too, Roshan Johnson. He's looking like he would be the runner-up if DeAndre Swift ever went out. So just take a look there. Just people like that you got to look out for. Injuries are very prevalent. And if you're 4-1, you got to look at it the other way too. People know you're the high and mighty. You're at the top of the league right now, and these 1-4 people are going to try to trade you. So if you have an extra stud maybe on the bench that you're kind of teetering at, do I play this guy every week? Do I not? You could go ahead and maybe even try to look for one of these trades with these 1-4 people, and you can probably eyeball them a little bit because they know that you don't need to trade this guy to them. So you can kind of get a little bit more bang for your buck there. If you like that, or you can be nice and just give them away. It's whatever. It's whatever you want to do. But yeah, just look for trades, look for these split backfields, try to pick it up on the waivers, but you got to do something quick if you're 1-4. That's for sure.
I like the point you make there, real quick, Caleb. If you're holding on, especially to like CMC right now, and you have a 1-4, 2-3 record, sell. People still want CMC. If you're that first round draft pick that picked him up, and obviously he's not coming back for a few weeks, sell. People will take him. So yeah, that's a thing to look at if you're holding on to one of those guys like that, like Chubb and Hawkinson and CMC. Just a few I thought of at the top of my head, but sorry for getting in there. Go ahead, Nick.
So this is actually a perfect example of it. In my leagues, I am 4-1 in one and 1-4 in the other. I'm on both ends of the spectrum, and I had the same things as it's kind of concerning how we all think alike, and I'll say kind of the same things. I had the same thing about Caleb about like what you have on your bench and needing to trade players that are performing that you're not really using or on the fence on. But on the inverse of that, for the 1-4, you still need to be cautious of that because people are going to know that you're trying to get those wins. You're trying to get those high value players. So you need to still try to understand to get a fair value for the trade, so you don't get rid of one of your top performing players to get someone who is a so-so kind of performing player that's just going to get you more points than what you have. In that with as well, the whole injuries and bye week, you need to look on that and see what teams are having bye weeks, and the injuries are a big thing. And one player that I thought of that would be good for the wires that hopefully I'll be getting in my leagues this week is Juju Smith-Schuster on the Chiefs. With Rice being out and Brown being out, it's going to be splits between Xavier Worthy and Juju. So situations like that where key star players that always get the ball go down, look to see who those backups are, just like how Caleb was saying in the split backfield. But I like that Juju aspect with he was already in Kansas City. He already has a relationship with Patrick Mahomes. I feel like in the time frame of these two receivers being out, he will be someone who's utilized more and be able to get what might be crucial points on a week to week basis.
All right. Yeah, we'll move on from fantasy, but yeah, I say take big risks. You're 1-4. You got to make the risky moves. You're already down. Unlikeliness to make the playoffs. Why not risk it all? Risk it all goes for those risky week to week wins. Let's move on to Nick. You mentioned a lot of Chiefs receivers and injuries. Let's go on to what your thoughts. We all had them as a whoopsie days this week, and obviously it didn't happen. They're going into the bye, same as the Vikings, 5-0, the only two undefeated teams left in the league. How do you feel about a three-peat? Do you guys think they can, with injuries and Rasheed Rice questionable whether to come back, and Mahomes' performance so far leading into this, he even says he's not playing up to his top speed. Do you think it's very likely, or do you think it's going to be one of those where they're really gonna have to either fight for it? I mean, being 5-0, you're already likely to make the playoffs. How does that play into factor for their three-peat? Before I give my opinions, we'll go down one in the first.
I might be the wrong person to ask this question because I'm pretty sure you all know my opinion already. I don't think they are going to do it. I think obviously the 5-0 start is fantastic start from any team, any year, hands down. However, if you look at their wins, they had to scratch and claw. Patrick Mahomes is not playing as well as Patrick Mahomes can. He's got 6 touchdowns and 6 interceptions, I believe, and he's just not looking up to the standard. Could he get better? Yeah. Could he get worse? Yeah. They have Rashee Rice out. Apparently, it might be for the year, but I just read today that it's not an ACL tear. It didn't have to get repaired. It's more minor things, but it's still going to be a while before he comes back. And that dude is the truth. I will say he's a very good receiver. Kelsey, he's kind of picking up the pace a little bit, but being that they are putting a target on their back, the whole thing last year where everybody's claiming a three-peat and they're scratching and clawing at wins, I think that they're going to get worn down by the end of the year, and I don't think that they're going to be able to do it.
I hate Kansas City just as much as the next person, especially being a Buffalo Bill fan. But even though Patrick Mahomes hasn't looked good, um, it's still the Kansas City Chiefs. They have number ones everywhere you look on defense, on offense. their offensive line number ones, tight end number one. They got. I mean, the only thing that's really lacking is a receiving core. But even then, I mean, Andy Reid, number one. I mean, it's you look everywhere. There's just a bunch of guys that will take over at any point in time, even if someone is or one side of the ball is lacking. It obviously 5-0, great start. Whether they can three-peat or not, it's we'll have to see later on. But right now, it is looking fine. I think they will be fine. I think they're going to be a contender in the playoffs. They will probably even get the number one seed. But like we said, we'll see what happens. Injuries can happen. Anything can happen at any given Sunday, which is why we love football. So for me right now, I think it's definitely plausible. However, I hope not.
I think that was really well said. I do think they're going to be a contender, a deep playoff run, maybe even they do make it to the Super Bowl again, and who knows whatever happens. Regardless of the stigma of that team and how they are turning into one of the, or already, if not they are, one of the most disliked and hated teams by the NFL fan base and NFL teams alike. Um, they're a good team, regardless of that. They have talent, and how Brandon said that they're scrapping for these wins. They're scrapping for these wins with Mahomes playing not at his best, that he said, and everyone has said. Travis Kelsey being checked out of some of the games, and these key injuries. They're still making these plays, getting these wins without key players performing to their best. And the fact that they're doing that, still 5-0, even though it's a fight to get to those wins, they're still playing with heart. They still have a good system. Andy Reid is he's gonna go down into the Hall of Fame as one of the best coaches in the NFL. Um, Regardless of the stigma behind it, or do the refs help them, which we all see the calls. They still will make a deep run off of the sheer heart and talent that is on that team.
I was gonna say you guys must be forgetting about their most prominent key player, and that's the dude that wears the stripes every game.
Very real. They've already won them like at least 3 or 4 games. So
It does seem
They,
coincidentally leaning towards it, but yeah, I
I
don't know.
will say the only reason that they are 5-0 is because of the referees. The only reason.
Uh,
Obviously, they
could
play
make that
great football.
argument.
They're a great. Hear me out, right? They play great football. They're a great team. They have great pieces everywhere. Yes, they would not be 5-0 if it were not for the referees, and you cannot tell me I'm wrong.
hmm.
But in that sense as well, with those bad calls, though, look at the Ravens game. They had bad calls on the refs, and it came down to if Isaiah Likely's big toe was half an inch shorter, they would have lost that game. So it goes back to, I believe it was conversation that we've had where do those call it was a conversation actually on this podcast. That's where I remember it from. If replays can go up to New York, if they can have that
Nah. So he
control,
does listen to the podcast.
um, if they can have that control and change bad calls in that sense. And I believe everyone on the consensus said that even if those calls happen, and actually this is your words, Brandon, even though those calls happen, it's on the other team to not put themselves in that situation where that call makes them lose that game.
I think I was the only one that said the opposite of that.
I think you're right. I
Either
think
I,
Brandon
way,
was the only one
either
that
way,
I
it's
know
what,
I
what
know that Justin said that. I know that Justin said that it was up to the team to fight and be in control of the game and be ahead, and
Yep.
it shouldn't come down to one play. But if you look at something like, I'll just use the most obvious one is the pass interference that they did not call against Atlanta that would have won them the game. And I go back to the Rams and 49ers game that the Niners were up 59 minutes of the game, and it just so happened in the last minute the Rams pulled ahead. That had nothing to do with refereeing, but anything can change in less than a minute. The game can change with one play, and we saw that in Atlanta versus Kansas City, and that's the only reason that they are undefeated, because that should have been a pass interference, and it should have put him half the distance to the goal. First down, touchdown Falcons, game over. Kansas City loses.
I'm not saying you're wrong that was a blown call, but it does come down to teams not putting themselves in that situation.
Well,
So again, there was better body control. The Ravens win.
this is going to be exactly my point of what I have to say about the Chiefs three-peat. Is you guys are kind of positioning as these scratch and claw games and the tight games as almost sort of like a weakness for them. Like eventually they have to wear out. The Chiefs have an extremely high win rate with one score games. They always win one score games. And I think that just comes down to who they are and what they do. They always, even if it is the refs, always find a way to win those games. Which is why I think, especially going 5-0 here, they're going to be a playoff contender, and they're going to win games in the playoffs. Let me ask you one question, all of you, right now. Who in the AFC can beat the Chiefs right now?
The Bills.
You would say the
Just
Ravens. They beat the Ravens. The Bills, maybe. Well, they play the Bills this year.
Well, that was week 1. Anything happened.
They play the Bills on the schedule this year, so we'll see. Texans, my predicted best NFL record in the. Guess what? They play them late December. We're gonna see too. Right now, it looks like all these AFC teams, even Ravens, who they beat already, Texans, Bills, what was the top 4? I don't see anyone else as strong as the Chiefs right now. Everyone seems pretty underwhelming. They all play each other this year. I think with that 5-0 start, that's one of the heavy reasons why I think that it's gonna be a lot more possible than, as much as I hate to say it, a lot more possible for them to appear again and have a chance at a three-peat.
So if we're talking about the Ravens, I want to talk about the Ravens just for a second. They, in week 1, did not use Derrick Henry the way they have been using him recently. We saw him with explosive plays over the last 3 weeks, and we saw the Ravens coming into their own and actually dominating football games. I hate to say that word because we also got dominated. Very sad about it, but I digress. The Ravens are probably that one team that would come into Kansas City, even at Arrowhead. It doesn't matter where. I think that if they're playing the same, if they play a game right now, playing at the same level that they're respectively at, I think Baltimore will smack Kansas City around. And that is no joke.
Then you get into that same argument where, like, it's the same thing with Dak, with Lamar. Every time they get in a postseason and you get into like one of those competitive games, he folds under the pressure. It's the postseason Lamar effect. Like that's been a thing now for the past couple of years. So is that going to be the same case where they look like a juggernaut in the regular season? They get in their first playoff game and lose again, like they have been.
Well, they had J.K. Dobbins, and now they have who is it? Oh yeah, Derrick Henry.
I mean, he's a pretty big factor, but yeah, we'll have to see.
Huge factor and a huge man.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude, you have Lamar who's slippery as hell. Dude, the play last? I don't even. All right, I'm gonna slow down. You have Lamar and Derrick Henry in the backfield, almost an unstoppable duo. That's just a different animal that you have to come up against. And Derrick Henry on Tennessee has not seen a lot of success there, and now he's in a position to see those playoff games, and that dude is hungry. He's getting old. He's getting better somehow at 30, 31 years old, however old he is. I think, honestly, the Baltimore Ravens are the team to be reckoned with deep in the season.
Yeah, they do definitely look strong, but I'm gonna move on. Time's sake, we're running pretty late. I could we probably could talk about this for another hour, but a hurricane is about to slam me here in Tampa, so we have to edit this all tonight and get going on the everyone's favorite portion of the podcast, which happens to be it's okay. It's not okay, which I have a fun one for you guys based on the environment me and Nick at the game here. So let's go with a scenario. You're sitting in your seat, very tight football game, and the guy next to you just got a hot dog from the concession stand up top, comes and sits right next to you. As that's happening, your team scores a touchdown and takes a lead. You get super excited. You jump out of your seat, arms flying in the air. You accidentally knock the guy next to you, and his hot dog goes flying into the ground. Horrible, horrible situation. But the question is it okay or is it not okay to refuse to buy him a replacement hot dog when he asks you to get him a new one because you just hit it out of his hand? We'll start with Brandon.
So my answer is not going to dictate the type of person I am. If it's me personally, I will buy the guy a hot dog just because I know if it were me, I'd be super pissed because I love me a good glizzy. I would buy the dude a hot dog. Also, depending on who he's rooting for, if it's like another Bills fan or whatever, I'll buy him a hot dog. But I will say that it is absolutely okay to refuse this dude a hot dog. You know what you're getting into when you're at a football game, really any sporting event. You know the hype around the game environment. You're there, you're live, people get excited. Not only that, but you're at a football game where the most important thing is ball security. And if you can't hang on to that glizzy, you don't deserve the glizzy. Okay. So, yes, I'm going to say it's absolutely okay to refuse buying another hot dog.
Yeah, it's hey, like you said, I like that last point you brought up. Hey, you're at a football game. If you're not holding on to that glizzy for dear life, that's your own mistake. Especially, hey, you're in the red zone or you see an absolute bomb go for 90 yards. You better. Hey, you know what? If it's me, honestly, with that hot dog, that glizzy isn't staying in my hands regardless. I'm throwing that thing. That thing is getting chucked. Hey, we're celebrating today. All right, that was awesome. Whatever just happened to warrant someone jumping up in the air and flailing their arms, hey, you better be up there too, unless you're against the other team. Well, yeah, I guess if you're rooting for the other team as them, then yeah, no, but yeah, I mean, for me, I'm definitely buying the dude another hot dog. I mean, he definitely just spent $30 on that thing, so you gotta feel bad for him. But at the same time, like you said, ball security. All right, you're at a football game. All right, let's be real here. You better hold on to that glizzy for sure.
So 9 times out of 10, I would. However, who I am as a person, if that happens, I'm gonna immediately apologize and I'm so sorry, it was an accident. Depending on how their reaction is to that, is how I will determine that outcome.
That's a
And
Oh,
good
how
I like
point.
that
That
answer.
is a good
it,
point.
I like that answer.
depending on that, because last year at um at the night game, primetime game I went to for the Steelers, similar situation. I knocked my buddy's beer out of my hand, and it hit. He caught it, but it hit the person next to us out of their hand, and they got super upset. Started cussing at us like we apologized. We ended up returning some choice words and just continuing on with the game and paid them no mention for the rest of the time. However, if they completely approached that situation differently, it was like, hey, I understand things happen. Like, I think we caught an interception is when we both jumped up. Yeah, 100%. Next time I'd go out, I wouldn't even tell them I'm bringing it. I would just show up with another one and hand it to them. So it depends on how it's received back after it. Like obviously, if you intentionally knock someone's stuff out of their hand, be a good person, go get it. At a football game, it's so many moving parts, and 100% it depends on their reaction.
Yeah. So you'd say it's okay to refuse depending on reaction.
Absolutely. If they start cursing you and your entire family's bloodline because you knocked a hot dog out of their hand that is gonna make their cholesterol rise through the roof, yeah, go ahead, say no. Um, tell tell them to go pound sand. At the end of the day,
All right. Well, I'm gonna go the opposite way just to give the fans something to think about. And by the way, we're posting this on our Twitter at the Fastcast, so go vote over there on if it's okay or not okay to buy a hot dog for the guy you just slapped out of their hand. I'm gonna say it's not okay just for the think about. I think when you're even yes, you get super excited. Your team just scored the big touchdown, go ahead touchdown. You know that's a crowded area. You know there's a lot of people around. I think you have to be aware of your surroundings and kind of control your bodily movements, and know that there's a lot of people that's intoxicated and few beers, and you got to be aware of where you're flinging your arms and the people around you. And especially when it comes to the sacred glizzy, man, like, come on, you can't be whacking glizzies all over the stadium. That's like the most sacred thing to a football game is the hot dog. Like, you can't be knocking hot dogs out of people's hands, no matter what the cost. Um, so yeah, I mean, you got to get the renewal. You got to get the guy new hot dog. So I think you just do it regardless. It's not okay. You have to go buy one. But that's going to be our takes on it. Like I said, go vote on what you guys think on the It's Okay, It's Not Okay. Nick, big thank you for joining us as our guest appearance this week. It was an awesome time at the game. What a game to go to. Win or lose there, it was a phenomenal game. I love the setting. I loved the whole entire day leading up to it. The tailgating was next level. Like, these guys had the greatest setup in the whole entire city. I'm telling you right now. Like, the people were walking by on the streets taking pictures of our tailgate. That's how, like, amazing it was. We had a guy walk up and show us, like, a ticket to the Terrible Towel tailgate, and he asked us, like, is this the official, like, Pittsburgh Steelers Terrible Towel? Like, that's how good these guys had the setup. It was incredible. Next level. But yeah, the great time, great week we had last week. We'll end it here, and thanks again, Nick, for joining us. And we'll be here next week, Thursday, 8 a.m., every single week. Find us everywhere at the Fastcast, Twitter, TikTok, YouTube. And NFL Week 5 is concluded. We're going on to Week 6. We'll see y'all next week for the next talk. Thank you, guys. We'll see you.
Thank you very much for having me.